Hello again everyone, and welcome back to Learn Linux TV. In today's video, what we're going to do is install Ubuntu 25.10. I'm going to show you the installation process every step of the way. We're going to be doing a full installation, so we'll be replacing our current operating system with Ubuntu, and by the end of this video, you'll have your very own Ubuntu install ready to go. Now, if you haven't already checked out Ubuntu 25.10, I did review it recently, so be sure to check out that review if you haven't already done so. This release in particular ships with GNOME 49, which offers smoother animations, better Wayland performance, and a refreshed look that feels more responsive. The Linux kernel has been updated to 6.17, bringing expanded hardware support and improved power efficiency. Altogether, these enhancements make Ubuntu 25.10 feel faster, cleaner, and more polished. And like I mentioned, in this video, we're going to install Ubuntu 25.10. Now, to be fair, there's really not all that much different this time around. If you've installed Ubuntu with any of the previous releases, it's pretty much the same workflow again. But I really do like doing these videos, not only because it gives those of you a chance to see the process that haven't already seen it, but also, as I look through all the installation videos over the years, it's almost like a time capsule that shows how Ubuntu has evolved over its existence. Anyway, in this video, what we're going to do is install Ubuntu 25.10 as the only operating system, so be sure that you've backed up any important files before you begin. Anyway, I'm excited to get started, so let's start our installation right now. So let's begin the process. What we're going to do right now is create installation media for Ubuntu, and to do so, we're going to need to download two things. We'll download Ubuntu itself, and also we'll need a tool to create installation media. And to download everything we'll need, we'll open up a web browser, and what we'll do is go to the Ubuntu website. And here we have the Ubuntu website. And we also see that Ubuntu 25.10 is available for download. You can click the download button right here to download the new release, but this heading might change, so what I'll do is click the download button here at the top and download Ubuntu Desktop. In this video, we're going to install Ubuntu 25.10, so we're going to skip this version right here and scroll down, and here we have it. So I'll click download. And at this point, we're just waiting for the download to finish. It's a fairly large file, so it might take a while. But anyway, I'll be right back as soon as it's done. And it looks like the download is finished. What we have here is an ISO file, and what we'll need to do is use that to create installation media. And to create that installation media, we'll need another tool. There's a number of tools available that you could use to create installation media from an ISO image, but what I'm going to do is use Etcher for this purpose. If you have a personal preference, maybe some other tool, you could always use that. There's no reason why you have to use Etcher. It's just an easy solution for most people. So what I'll do is go to etcher.io. I'll click the download button right here, and this is a very small utility, so it'll download quickly. And as you can see right here, we have versions of Etcher available for Windows, macOS, as well as Linux, so chances are it supports your current operating system. As for me, I'm recording this footage from Windows 11, so what I'll do is click the download button for the Windows version. And the download is now finished, so what I'll do is open the file. And here we have the utility. And it's really easy to use. All we have to do is click this button right here, Flash from File. We're going to choose the Ubuntu image that we downloaded earlier. So I'll select that and click Open. And next what I'll do is select the flash drive that I want to convert into Ubuntu installation media. Just keep in mind that the contents of the flash drive will be completely wiped out, so make sure that you use one that doesn't have anything important on it. So I'll click Select Target. I'll choose my flash drive. And then I'll click the Flash button. And the process is done. Now we have an Ubuntu installer, and we could use that installer to install Ubuntu. At this point, all you have to do is insert the flash drive into the computer that you plan on installing Ubuntu on, and then press whatever key is designated as the key that activates your boot menu. The key that you'll need to press during startup is different per computer, but it's often F12, F7, or F11. There's other possibilities as well, but if you don't know what key you need to press during startup, then all you have to do is perform a quick Google search with the model number of your computer and boot menu, and you should be able to find out what key you need to press. In my case right here, I'm on the boot menu for my computer, and the second option in my case is going to be my installation media. So I'll just press the down arrow and press enter. And here, all we have to do is press enter to select the option try or install Ubuntu, which is what I'm going to do, and that'll get the process started. And once your computer finishes booting from the installation media, you'll see a screen that looks just like this. Now, what I recommend you do at this point is just close the installer. We want to use live mode to test Ubuntu to make sure that it works with our computer before we install it. And now we're using Ubuntu in live mode. During live mode, you could use Ubuntu as if it was actually installed on your computer, although we have yet to install it. And this gives us a chance to test everything to make sure that all the hardware on our computer is compatible. For example, I can launch applications, as you can see. And one thing to keep in mind is that during live mode, performance is not going to be as good as it would be if Ubuntu was actually installed, but it does give us a chance to test it, which is really cool. So you can launch applications, as you just saw, but more importantly, we need to make sure that our hardware is compatible. One thing that you should try right away if you have a Wi-Fi card is you should click up here. This is the system control menu, and you should have an option for Wi-Fi. And if you click the right arrow next to the Wi-Fi icon right here, you should see a list of available Wi-Fi networks. If you don't see a list of wireless networks, that might mean that your Wi-Fi card is not compatible with Ubuntu. And that's why we're testing this. We want to know about these things before we replace the operating system on our computer. We want to make sure that Ubuntu is going to work for us. In my case, I do see a list of available networks here, which is really great. So what I'm going to do is connect to one of them. And we're connected. We can see the Wi-Fi icon on the upper right-hand corner of the screen, so that shows that we're connected. And just to make sure, what I'm going to do is open Firefox, and that'll give us a chance to test internet access. And as you can see, it appears to be working. Another thing that I recommend that you try out is playing a video, and that'll make sure that video performance is good, and it also gives you a chance to make sure that audio works as well. So I'll just click on any random video here. And as you can see, it's working. So far, so good. In addition to testing internet access, you could also test other hardware as well. So, for example, if you have a second display, a scanner, a printer, make sure you connect those devices and ensure they're working before you install Ubuntu. Now, on my end, I know this computer is compatible with Ubuntu. I've installed it on this computer a number of times now, but it's just a good idea to make sure that it works before you replace your existing operating system. Anyway, once we're done testing, what we'll do is access the installer, and we see an icon for it right here. So I'll double click on it. And here it is. The installation process is very straightforward, and what I'll do right now is walk you through each step. And during the process, it's going to ask you several questions, the first of which is asking for my language, and it defaulted to English, which is correct for me. But if your primary language is something else, you can select it from this list. I'll just leave mine on English, and I'll click Next. On the next screen, we'll see several accessibility options, and if any of these pertain to you, you could go ahead and select them. I'm going to click Next to move on. And the third screen is going to ask us about our keyboard layout. In my case, it detected my keyboard as English US, which is correct. If you need to use a different keyboard layout, you could select that here. And there's a bunch of them on this list. And then you could also type in this box down here to make sure that your keyboard is working. However, mine was auto-detected properly, so I'm going to move on. Next, it's going to give us an opportunity to connect to a Wi-Fi network. I'm already connected in my case, so I'll click Next. Continuing, we have an option for interactive installation or an automated install with an auto-install file. Now, the automated installation falls outside of the scope of this video, but it is a very useful option, especially if you plan on installing Ubuntu on a number of machines. In that case, you can create an auto-install file that will answer all the remaining questions for you, but I'm going to use the interactive installation, and I'll click Next. And the next screen that comes up gives us an option for default selection or extended selection when it comes to the default applications that are pre-installed. The default selection is going to have just the minimal applications, for example, a web browser and essential commands and utilities, basically the minimum that's required for basic usage of your computer. Now, for most of you, I'm going to recommend the extended selection, and that's going to give you some Office tools, among other things. For example, it's going to include Office tools, as you see right here. And basically what that pertains to is LibreOffice. We have several Office apps in the LibreOffice suite. As you can see, we have Calc, Draw, Math, and so on. So, unless you have a specific need to have a minimal installation, I do recommend the extended selection. So that's what I'll choose, and I'll click Next. Sorry to interrupt my own video, but I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate each and every single one of you, and I love creating Linux-related content for you guys. But unfortunately, producing high-quality Linux content like this isn't cheap. But if you want to help me make even more content for you guys, then consider supporting Learn Linux TV. And a great way to do that is to check out the official shop for Learn Linux TV, which was just recently updated. Inside the shop, you'll find distro-themed shirts, bags, drinkware, and more. And there's some other surprises there as well. For example, I've just introduced a mousepad that doubles as a Tmux cheat sheet. How cool is that? So check out the shop at merch.learnlinux.tv, or you could check out the merch shelf right here on YouTube. You could get yourself something really cool and support Linux learning at the same time, so it's a win-win. Anyway, thank you guys so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the video. Continuing, we have an option to install recommended proprietary software. By proprietary, it just means that the software that's installed through this is not open source. Now, open source software is always preferred, but sometimes a computer might require drivers that are proprietary that Ubuntu doesn't have the source code for. I recommend that you select both of these options right here. The first one is going to install additional drivers, and the second one is going to ensure that multimedia files are playable. And there's no reason not to select both of these options here. Sure, it's going to consume additional hard drive space, but not all that much. And you never know, you might need something from one of these two options. Now, of course, it's possible that you might not need any of the proprietary drivers from the first option here, but if you're using this on a desktop computer, it's always possible that later you might upgrade it and install a piece of hardware that might require something from this particular selection. So I think it's good to be prepared, so what I'll do is select both of these options here and click Next. On this screen, it's asking us how we want to install Ubuntu. We can install it alongside our current operating system, basically set up a dual boot, or we can erase the disk and install only Ubuntu. Now in this tutorial, I'm showing you how to do a full installation of Ubuntu as the only operating system. So what I'm going to do is erase the disk and install Ubuntu over top of the operating system that I currently have installed, which as you can see is Debian Trixie. Just keep in mind that you will lose everything on the hard disk, so make sure that you have a backup of everything before you go any further. Anyway, I'll choose the option Erase Disk and install Ubuntu and click Next. On the next screen, we could choose whether or not we want to encrypt our installation. I'm going to encrypt it in my case, and basically what that means is that data at rest is protected. So for example, if your computer was stolen or something like that, then no one would be able to read the files that you have in your hard drive because they're encrypted. We could use LVM without encryption, for example, and this falls outside the scope of the video, but if that's something that you want to use, you do have an option for that. We also have a few experimental options as well, as you could see. We could use ZFS without encryption or ZFS with encryption. Now these two options are labeled as experimental, which means they're not ready for production. They just need more testing before they're fully ready. But if ZFS is something that you want to check out and experiment with, you do have options for that right here. Another option we have is to use hardware-backed encryption. Now that option is experimental, but if you select it, it's going to encrypt your hard drive and also use your TPM chip, if you have one, to protect your key. Now that option is also experimental, so again, it's not ready for production, but it is something that you can test if you want to. However, in my case, I don't have a TPM chip on this particular computer, so the option is grayed out, but if you do have such a chip, you will be able to select this option. But either way, I don't recommend that you choose this for production systems, so what we're going to do is use one of the two options at the beginning of this list. And what the choice comes down to is whether or not you want your hard drive encrypted. If you plan on saving sensitive data on your computer, you should definitely encrypt it, but if not, you could choose to not encrypt it. I'm going to choose the second option in my case, and I'll click Next. And this screen right here will only appear if you choose to encrypt your hard drive. It's asking you for the passphrase that you want to use to unlock your computer. As the verbiage shows right here, you definitely want to make sure that you save your passphrase, because if you forget it, you will not be able to boot your computer and you will not be able to access anything from your computer. Even if you take your hard drive out and plug it into another computer, if you don't have your passphrase, well, there's no way to access that data. Anyway, what I'll do is type in my passphrase right here. And now that I've typed it, I'll click Next. Now on this screen right here, what we're going to do is set up our user account for the computer. The very first user is going to have administrative privileges over the computer, so keep that in mind. But anyway, you'll type your name. And in the next box, we're going to give our computer a name. And this is a name that's going to show up on the network if you're sharing files or something like that. But you can name your computer whatever you want. And since mine is a demo, I'm just going to call it Ubuntu, as you can see right here. And then what we're going to do is tab down to Password, and we're going to type in the password for our user account. So I'll type that in, and I'll confirm it. And that should be all we need to do for this particular screen. We do have an option for Active Directory, so if you use Ubuntu at your company, for example, they might mandate that you use this. I might consider a video in the future about setting this up if you're interested, but for right now, we're going to keep our installation simple. So I'll click Next. And then after that, what we'll do is select our location, and that also sets our time zone, as you can see right here. Now it's already pretty much correct. Anything within this range right here is where I am, so that's going to be correct in my case. But all you have to do is just click on the map wherever you are located, and that'll set your location and your time zone. So I've selected mine, and I'll click Next. Now on this screen, what it's going to do is just review all of the options that we've selected during the course of the installation. So all you have to do is just look through this list and make sure all of your desired settings are accounted for, and mine are, and then we can click Install. And at this point, Ubuntu is installing. It'll take a little bit of time for this process to complete, so just give it a few minutes and it should be done fairly quickly. But what I'm going to do right now is fast forward it in post to save you some time. So it looks like the setup process is complete, so I'll click the reboot button, and now what we'll do is reboot into our brand new installation. And now it's asking us to remove the installation media so it doesn't boot back into the installer again, and I've done that, so I'll press Enter. Alright, so we're almost there, and since I chose to encrypt my installation, it's giving me an opportunity to type in my passphrase, so I'll do that right now. And I'll press Enter. And here we have the login screen, so what I'll do is click on my username, I'll type in my super secret password, and here we are. The first thing you're going to see is this welcome screen right here, and you can view the release notes if you want to do that, but I'll click Next. And now it's giving us an option to send feedback to Ubuntu, so you could send this information if you want to. And if you're curious what's inside the report, you could click right here. And as you can see, the information here pertains to my particular hardware. And information about your hardware helps the Ubuntu team when it comes to developing Ubuntu itself, so it's up to you. I'm going to choose to send this information since there's nothing personally identifiable within that information. And I'll click Next. And the final screen is just letting you know that you could use the Ubuntu App Center to install applications. You could click right here to open that. The icon for it is also right here, so you could access that anytime. Anyway, I'll click Finish. And here we are. Ubuntu 25.10 is ready to go. Now, one thing that I recommend that you check before you start using it is the Additional Drivers app. We see that right here, so we'll click on it. And if your computer requires any additional drivers that weren't already installed as part of the installer, they'll be shown right here. In my case, this particular computer doesn't require any proprietary drivers, so this doesn't apply to me. But if your computer does require something additional, again, something that wasn't included as part of the installer, it'll be shown right here, and you'll have an option to set up a driver for that particular device. And this app is also really helpful if you add hardware later. Maybe you didn't have any proprietary hardware in your computer when you first set up Ubuntu, but then later maybe you added a new device that does require such a driver. You can always go back to this particular application to look for additional drivers that you might need. But in my case, Ubuntu is all set and ready to go, and I hope you enjoy your brand new installation. And there you go! In this video, we installed Ubuntu 25.10, and I hope you enjoy your brand new installation. I think you've made a really good choice because Ubuntu is a good distribution. It has really great hardware compatibility, and in general, it just works really well. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to click that like button to let YouTube know. I would really appreciate that. And also, make sure you subscribe to Learn Linux TV if you haven't already done so. I have all kinds of awesome Linux-related videos coming to this channel very soon. Anyway, with all that said, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.